Tonight, Jordan declares tomorrow Monday as the first day of the holy month of Ramadan. Nearly 50 strikes hit rebel-held areas in and around the Syrian city of Aleppo in some of the heaviest raids recently by Russian and Syrian government aircraft. Fighters battling to retake Fallujah from Daesh say they have the Iraqi city almost completely encircled as civilians risk their lives trying to flee. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Chief Islamic Justice Ahmed Khlayal announced that the holy month of Ramadan begins tomorrow, Monday, in Jordan. Khlayal said during a ceremony that crescent moon of the new lunar month was spotted in Jordan today, which makes Monday the first day of Ramadan, during which Muslims observe dawn to dusk fasting. In Islam, to determine the start of lunar months, including Ramadan, people look for the crescent, and those who sight the new moon report to the Sharia court to testify. However, the usual practice is that Muslim scholars and astronomers meet before sunset on the 29th of Sha'ban to spot the new moon, headed by Chief Islamic Justice, who traditionally has the final say over the issue. On this occasion, His Majesty congratulated all Jordanians as well as the Arab and Muslim nations on the Royal Hashemite Court social media page. Nearly 50 strikes hit rebel-held areas in and around the Syrian city of Aleppo in some of the heaviest raids recently by Russian and Syrian government aircraft. For their part, rebels also hit government-held areas of Aleppo, and what Syrian media said was an escalation in mortar attacks on the western district of what was the country's largest city before the war. State media said missiles fired on Hamadaniya, Midan, and other neighborhoods by insurgents left at least 20 dead, mostly civilians, in the second day of intense shelling of government-held areas, which had left at least 24 dead. In the rebel-held eastern sector of the city, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights and dozens of barrel bombs, oil drums or cylinders packed with explosives and shrapnel were dropped by military helicopters on several densely populated districts. At least 32 people were killed in the rebel-held part of the city, with 18 bodies alone pulled out of the rubbles of flattened buildings in the Kadrij neighborhood, the worst hit. In the ongoing war against terrorism, the United States and its allies conducted a total of 23 military strikes against Daesh terrorist group in Syria and Iraq. The coalition leading the operation said in a statement that 13 of the strikes occurred in Syria through the use of bomber attack fighters and remotely piloted aircraft. Another 10 strikes were carried out in Iraq using rockets, artillery and bomber ground attack fighters and remotely piloted aircrafts. Here at home, a total of 692 new Syrian refugees from various age groups crossed into the kingdom during the last 72 hours. Border guards provided the refugees with the necessary aid before transferring them to refugee camps. The Jordanian Royal Medical Services personnel also administered first aid to refugee patients through their medical centers at the borders. Fighters battling to retake Fallujah from Daesh said they had the Iraqi city almost completely encircled as civilians risked their lives trying to flee. At least 4 people drowned and 9 were missing after trying to cross the Euphrates River to escape the Daesh stronghold city just west of Baghdad. Police said they were looking for 9 other people believed to have been on the same boat. Another 50,000 civilians live in Fallujah, 50 kilometers from Baghdad, with limited access to water, food and healthcare, according to a UN estimate. Italian Coast Guard released footage of the rescue of 360 migrants crammed into a fishing boat as they continued their operations in the Mediterranean to bring migrants to safety. According to Italian authorities, the majority of migrants were from Egypt, Sudan, Somalia, and Eritrea, and they boarded the boat in Alexandria, Egypt, a few days ago. Meanwhile, about 250 survivors on the latest tragedy of Crete arrived in the Sicilian port as more bodies wash up on the shores of Libya. Here's more.
A Norwegian tanker carrying hundreds of migrants rescued from a sinking ship sails into a port in Sicily. 340 migrants were rescued off the island of Crete on Friday. Between 500 to 700 were believed to have been on board the boat before it went down. A spokesperson for Save the Children said a 3-year-old girl was amongst the survivors and had lost her whole family at sea. Most of those rescued were brought here, to Italy. The rest were taken to Egypt, Turkey and Malta. Warm weather and calmer seas have led to a surge in people trying to cross the Mediterranean from North Africa. On the beaches of western Libya, more bodies are found washed up. In Libya in particular, people smugglers are able to operate relatively freely. About 40,000 migrants are believed to have paid people smugglers for their journey from North Africa to Italy so far this year.
Hundreds of students competed in an annual robot competition in Taiwan, which organizers say has been held since 1989. Competition was divided into several categories, including maze solving, obstacle course, and solar panel application. The black line map, which the robot needs to move along to the end in 1 minute, is also made harder with 2 bottles being placed on the line, trying to block the robot from completing the course easily. The students are not only coming from Taiwan, but also Hong Kong and Malaysian students who are studying on the island. French Open women's champion Gabrielle Muguruza trotted into the Place de la Concorde in Paris in a cocktail dress and red stilettos to show off the trophy she won in yesterday's final. The 22-year-old Spaniard claimed the French Open by defeating world number 1 Serena Williams in straight sets. After losing to Serena Williams in last year's Wimbledon final, all eyes will be on Muguruza's return to the grass court later this month.
Darvin? All right. All right? All right. Good. Good.
2016 Cliff Diving World Series began in Texas with a 27-meter platform, with Renan Lifland of Australia taking the lead from the start. The men's competition was won by Mexico. And finally, moderate conditions prevail across the kingdom tonight as the impact of the heat wave that affected Jordan over the past 3 days begins to ease off. Tomorrow, a drop in temperatures is expected, with fair weather in hilly areas and relatively hot in the Badia and the eastern plains. Winds will be westerly to northwesterly, moderate to brisk, raising dust in the desert areas. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect hot conditions tomorrow, with northerly moderate to brisk winds and lightly high seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. And to end the news, here's a recap of our top stories. Jordan declares tomorrow, Monday, as the first day of the holy months of Ramadan. Nearly 50 strikes hit rebel-held areas in and around the Syrian city of Aleppo, and some of the heaviest raids recently by Russian and Syrian government aircrafts. Fighters battling to retake Fallujah from Daesh say they have the Iraqi city almost completely encircled as civilians risk their lives trying to flee. And with this we come to an end. I'm Farah Ajlouni. Thank you for watching and have a good night.